what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Historic Hot Laps. I'm your host, Alex Daniels. We've got a lot to talk about on this one. I'm sure a lot of people have already seen the lawsuit news at NASCAR and where we're at with that. Plus, we had the F1 season finale. As much as I want to kick it off with the race recaps, we got to dive right into what matters for the biggest news in quite some time. So let's get this one going. It's a big one today. The story that had the entire garage talking, the antitrust lawsuit filed by 2311 Racing and Row Motorsports against NASCAR. It's been pretty wild, probably the wildest off-track drama we've seen in some time. Years, probably my whole generation, to be honest, but we've been following it day by day. If you haven't caught up on the previous episode, please do so. This past week turned into one of the most intense stretches the sport has seen in the courtroom. So let's walk through day 4, picking up where we left off. By day 4, everyone knew this trial was not just about money. It was about who gets to shape the future of NASCAR. Bob Jenkins for Row Motorsports wrapped up his testimony. His message was simple. Teams need stability. They need a system that lets them survive long term. He talked about how unpredictable revenue and expiring charters put pressure on all the operations and all the teams. It was an honest testimony and a little emotional. Then Steve O'Donnell took the stand. NASCAR's side focused heavily on the structure of the charter system and why they believe it protects competition. He defended the league's authority to run the sport without handing over governance rights to teams. The questioning from 2311 and FRM's lawyers was pretty sharp. They pushed him on revenue sharing, the short length of charter agreements, why teams felt boxed in when they refused to sign the 2025 deal. You could feel the tension in the courtroom. This was the moment where both sides showed how far apart they really were. And that kind of wrapped up day 4. So let's jump over to day 5. This zeroed in on the business side of things. Lawyers broke down team budgets, sponsorship models, charter value, the real cost of running a competitive operation in NASCAR. 2311 and FRM argued that the business model leaned too hard on the teams to survive on sponsorship alone. NASCAR countered that even with charter limits, the system had created more stability than any time in modern stock car racing. Several documents were discussed in court, past charter negotiation notes, internal projections for revenue, even messages between the teams and the NASCAR leadership. It was clear that frustrations had been building for years. By the end of day 5, fans and reporters were starting to ask if this case was headed towards a verdict that could reshape the sport. Then that puts us into day 6, so the garage culture day, if you will. Day 6 introduced testimony that was less about numbers and more about the spirit of the competition. Representatives from both teams talked about why they joined NASCAR in the first place, why ownership matters, why the charter system felt like it was losing its original purpose. NASCAR responded by bringing in league officials to explain on how schedules work, race formats, and long-term planning would be impossible if the teams had the kind of power the plaintiffs were asking for. They argued that someone has to lead the sport. Someone has to keep everything aligned. They said their charter model was not broken. It just needed updating. This day was pretty powerful because it moved past the paperwork and back to the people. Then we see a turning point on day 7. The trial suddenly felt like it was hitting a wall. Both sides dug in their heels pretty aggressively. The judge asked several clarifying questions about what the plaintiffs wanted, not just in terms of charters, but in terms of actual influence on decision-making. It created a moment where everyone in the courtroom looked at each other and realized something. No matter who won, the loser was going to take a massive hit. Ownership was very much divided. The garage was divided. And NASCAR as a whole was taking public punches. Behind the scenes, you could tell the conversations were shifting. The parties were starting to feel out whether a negotiated agreement might be better than rolling the dice on a jury. This brings us to day 8, the curveball day. Day began like a normal trial day. More witness prep, more motions, more documents to present. Then everything changed. A judge called for a recess, a long one in fact. Lawyers from all sides walked out. Team owners stepped into private rooms. NASCAR executives joined them. Security officers kept reporters back. Nobody really knew what was happening, but you could feel it in the air that something was a little different that day. 90 minutes later, the courtroom reopened. The judge returned. The attorneys filed back in, and the announcement was dropped. The lawsuit was settled. No verdict, no dramatic ending, no final testimony, just a settlement. And not just any settlement, but a massive one that will shape the future of NASCAR for years. So here's what the settlement includes and what we know is official. First talking point, 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports get their charters reinstated. Both teams walked away from NASCAR's 2025 charter agreement and lost their spots. This settlement gives those charters back. Their future in the Cup Series is secure once again. And we've talked on previous episodes about what that means for driver lineup, team security, all that kind of stuff. The second thing is NASCAR will modify the charter system to include an evergreen structure. This means charters no longer sit on an expiring clock. They can continue long-term through renewals. Teams have wanted this for years because it creates stability and protects franchise value. We know when Richard Childress took the stand, this was a big thing that he pushed in to his statements. The other thing that they negotiated was financial privacy, no payout numbers, no compensation figures, nothing public there. What we do know is that the economic relief combined with charter reinstatement was enough for both teams to withdraw all claims. So nobody's trying to secure damages from the other, and that kind of thing is basically all that means. All parties have agreed to a forward-looking partnership. Every statement released said roughly the same thing. The sport is better with everyone else aligned. The settlement prevents a damaging fracture that lets everyone get back to racing. The governance structure remains with NASCAR. Teams did not receive co-governance authority. However, NASCAR still controls schedules, rules, formats, and competition decisions. But new charter terms will be negotiated for all teams, even those that had previously signed the old agreement. This is not just about plaintiffs. The entire garage is expected to benefit from the updated language once the new agreement rolls out. So let's touch on what this means for the future. Well, the settlement keeps the charter model alive, but strengthens it quite heavily. Teams gain security. NASCAR remains its normal leadership values and maintains control of the operation. And the garage gets a sense of stability heading into the 2026 season. 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports are fully back in the fold now. NASCAR avoids a potentially devastating verdict, and it could be a huge financial hit if it went their way. Team owners get validation that the system needed some change, and most importantly, the sport avoids a civil war or a breakdown, much of that we saw back in the day in IndyCar. This is one of the most important off-track stories in NASCAR history. It forced conversations that had been brewing for years, and it delivered real change without compromising the core of the sport. For the future of NASCAR, now that the dust has settled, let's talk about what it means going forward, because the fallout from this trial is not just legal, it's competitive, it's financial, and it's cultural. The 2026 season is going to look different because of what happened in the courtroom today and yesterday and the day before and all that. So, with team stability getting a major boost, the biggest change is simple. Teams can definitely breathe again. With evergreen charters becoming part of the new system, owners are finally getting a long-term security they have been begging for. That means stronger business plans, more confidence in sponsors, and better long-range investment. Instead of living year to year, teams can think 3, 5, 10 years ahead, make a long-term financial goal. That stability will attract new partners and maybe even new ownership groups. Your charter value starts to climb again. The uncertainty of last year crushed the charter market. No one knew what the charter was worth if the system was falling apart. Now with reinstated charters and future changes locked in, that value climbs back up. Teams like 2311 and FRM are sitting in a much safer position now with the evergreen structure. Anyone thinking about selling, buying, or expanding now has firmer ground to stand on. The midfield of the teams in NASCAR, the back markers, if you will, some of those kind of groups will see the most immediate on-track impact as stability gives smaller and mid-tier teams a chance to level up. Those teams usually live on thin margins. Evergreen charters mean they can hire smarter, plan smarter, and hold on to talent. We might see a surprise step forward in the next year from organizations that used to struggle to stay afloat. The other thing that we really need to look at is kind of a sidebar as manufacturer interest becomes real. Manufacturers do not like chaos. They want to commit to clarity. This means around the charter system made the sport look unstable from the outside for the last couple of years. With this settlement, NASCAR can go back to pitching the series a long-term investment for current manufacturers, new manufacturers, whatever the case might be. That could open the door for the next brand to come into the Cup Series, and not just 2026, but 5 or 10 years down the road. The sport could be a lot bigger. The other thing to take away from this is NASCAR avoids losing their authority, but gains goodwill with the teams. This is an important one. NASCAR kept control of the rules, schedules, and competitive side of the sport, but the trial forced them to listen to other teams, forced them to adjust, and that matters a lot. Teams now know that when they push back, they can create a real change. NASCAR knows that they can't ignore the garage the way they used to. The balance sets up a healthier working relationship going forward. Sponsor confidence goes back up. Sponsors want predictability as much as owners do. The fear of a broken charter system made some partners hesitant to commit to long-term deals. With the settlement behind us, contracts become easier to sign and easier to renew. This could bring more money into the sport, especially for mid-tier teams that rely on steady sponsorship to survive. Driver movement is also something to watch. With teams feeling more stable, the driver market could get a lot more active. Owners have more confidence to sign multi-year deals. Drivers know which organizations are healthy. And with charters secure, teams might even add additional cars if they can acquire new slots. Expect silly season in 2026 and 2027 to be way more unpredictable. I think the biggest thing about this whole thing, though, is the sport avoids a huge fracture. The most important outcome without this settlement, NASCAR was at risk of splitting into two bitter camps. The lawsuit had gone all the way to a verdict. No matter who had won, the garage would have been divided for years. There was no good outcome, right? Instead, everyone walks away shaken but aligned. The unity that will keep the sport strong as it heads into 2026. All in all, this settlement stabilizes the foundation of stock car racing. It does not fix every issue. It does not make every team instantly profitable, but it gives the sport direction and a chance to grow again. 2026 will not just be another season, it will be the first chapter of a new era, and the ripple effects of this case will be felt every time the team signs a new sponsor, hires a new engineer, expands their footprint, or rolls a new car onto the grid. If this story showed us anything, it's the business side of racing can be just as wild as what happened on the track. And hopefully we'll see some more information from this and possibly, what the teams are thinking going forward, how things are going to change. If anything else comes out of it, we will definitely discuss it here. But that pretty much wraps up our NASCAR lawsuit segment. I mean, we definitely saw a lot of changes, a lot of things happening. And who knows moving forward what else we're going to see from this. But it's looking pretty positive. So let's turn our attention to some race recaps because we did have a Season 1 finale. And we definitely need to discuss that. All right, let's talk about the finale for Formula One, the floodlit Yas Marina circuit. We saw a season finale for the ages. The race was won by Max Verstappen, who led from lights out and crossed the line first, a commanding victory to cap off his year. Behind him came Oscar Piastri in second place and Lando Norris in third. That third place turned out to be the one that really mattered, though. It was a tense fight right from the start. Piastri jumped ahead of Norris on lap 1. Norris had to fend off pressure from the likes of Charles Leclerc while managing tire strategy and pit stop splash in the mid-stages. Through all that, Norris held on as the laps counted down. It became clear that finishing on the podium was enough to clinch the championship. And when he took the flag in third, his season-long consistency, a mix of wins, podiums, and composure all paid off. With that podium, Lando Norris totaled 423 points, edging Verstappen, who finished the race at just 421 points. A razor-thin margin of 2 points. That makes Norris the 2025 World Champion, which is his first championship ever, and it ends the reign that Max Verstappen had on the series. Piastri, despite a strong season in second place in Abu Dhabi, ends up third in the championship with 410 points. This title is a big milestone, not just for Norris, but also for McLaren, their first driver's crown since 2008. For Verstappen and Red Bull Racing, it definitely stings. He won the finale convincingly, but came up just short in the overall battle, ending a 4-year championship reign. Just a great way to end the season, though. I mean, I don't think any of us expected it going into the middle of the year that Verstappen would be on this tear to come back and actually be a challenge for those McLaren cars. Man, what an outcome that was. Max, we lost some money in the old betting pools by a couple points, but that's all right. We've always got next year. So let's watch in 2026. Expect McLaren to be under the spotlight next season with Norris now a champion and Piastri still competitive. They have serious momentum. I don't think there's any argument there. Both those drivers are super skilled, super talented, and depending on the rule change, shakeup, and everything else, McLaren could very well be super competitive once again. Will Verstappen bounce back with Red Bull? Will surely regroup and be hunting, so don't count him out. With the championship fight this tight, 2026 could deliver even more intense rivalries and tactical showdowns. Looking ahead, the grid is reset, points are raced, whatever happens next year could be a classic. Before we move on, got something fun to tease for you guys, though. We're putting together a full 2025 Formula One season recap, much like we did last year. It's not just me for this one. In historic hot laps tradition, we're bringing a special guest and friend of the show back. We'll break down the full swings and title fight, the surprise wins, the rough weekends, and everything that's set up for a wild finish in Abu Dhabi. So if you're an F1 fan, you don't want to miss that episode. So please stay tuned for that coming up next week, most likely. And that episode's going to be a good one. As always, please like, share, subscribe, hit all the buttons, and thank you for following us. Let's talk about some news. Unfortunately for our news, we've got to start off a little somber on this one. Michael Annett, one of racing's good ones, recently passed away. Driver many of us cheered for. He passed away December 5th, 2025 at the age of 39. Michael's journey through motorsport was a story of grit, perseverance, and quiet loyalty. He made 436 combined starts across NASCAR's 3 national touring series. He's best known for his time in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. 321 of those starts stood there, and 158 of those came with Ware Motorsports, the team he came to represent in the later half of his career. His crowning moment came in 2019. That year, Michael delivered a career-defining win. He took the checkered flag in a season-opening Xfinity race at Daytona International Speedway behind the wheel of the number 1 JRM Chevrolet. Beyond that win, though, Annett's career was built on consistency and resilience. Over many seasons, he collected a large number of top 10s and top 5s, a testament to his steady presence in the field. Even if the checkered flag wins didn't come often. He also had success before NASCAR's National Spotlight, 2 wins in the ARCA Menard Series, victory at Talladega Speedway in 2007, and another at Daytona in 2008. He's definitely a super speedway guy. Off the track, many in the garage remembered him for his character. After the news broke, tributes poured in from friends, former teammates, competitors, all remembering Michael as someone with professionalism, integrity, and a genuine love for the sport. His time with JRM was especially meaningful. The team noted that his presence helped solidify the foundation that allowed them to evolve into the 4-car operation they are today. Super sad and unfortunate and passing way too young, but definitely in our thoughts on that one. Keeping along the Xfinity talk, let's talk about Nick Sanchez, and he will not return to Big Machine Racing in 2026, leaving the Miami native without a seat just weeks before the season gets underway. Sanchez confirmed on social media that he was informed over the past weekend that he won't be back behind the wheel of the number 48 Big Machine Racing Chevrolet for the upcoming season. Timing caught a lot of people by surprise after a solid rookie campaign in the Xfinity Series, including his first career victory at the Focused Health 250 at Echo Park Speedway, and multiple top 5 and top 10 finishes. Many expected him to be locked in for 2026. In his statement, Sanchez called the move strictly business, thanking Big Machine owner Scott Borchetta, crew chief Patrick Donahue, Chevrolet, and the team for the opportunity. He said the change was unexpected, but he remains optimistic about his future in the sport. Despite not being formally replaced yet, the decision leaves the number 48 seat open and the driver market wide because it came so late in the offseason. With Daytona just around the corner, this could create a scramble for available rides across both Xfinity and the Truck Series. Sanchez's rookie season was one many teams took notice of. His win and consistent results helped Big Machine Racing deliver some of the strongest performances to date. He now enters 2026 as a free agent with a race-winning talent on his resume. As the silly season continues, the question now there is, where will Nick Sanchez land next? Will he find a new full-time ride in Xfinity, pivot back to trucks, or get picked up by a team with open seats and sponsors ready to invest? We'll be watching it closely. Stay tuned as the story develops. All right, here's another big piece of news shaping the landscape of NASCAR. As we head into the 2026 season, Ware Racing announced this week that it's leaving Ford and joining Chevrolet for 2026. The move comes as part of a multi-year partnership with Chevrolet and a new technical alliance with Richard Childress Racing. With engines supplied by ECR Engines, Cody Ware will stay behind the wheel of the number 51 entry under the new arrangement. Ware Racing had run Ford Mustangs full-time since 2022, but now they'll field the Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 body. In a statement, team owner Rick Ware said Chevrolet's commitment, performance history, and passion for racing gave the team a better platform for its progress on the track. What makes this significant isn't just the manufacturer change, it's what it suggests about the long-term health of Ford's presence in NASCAR. Is this a shock? Not entirely. RWR's move isn't happening in isolation. Another Cup team, the Haas factory team, is also switching from Ford to Chevrolet in 2026, aligning itself with Hendrick Motorsports and a Hendrick-prepared motor. The effect of both teams leaving Ford for Chevy is immediate. It shrinks the number of full-time Fords in the sport. After these changes, teams like RFK Racing, Team Penske, Wood Brothers, and Row Motorsports may be the only full-time outfits flying the Blue Oval from here on out. Meanwhile, Chevrolet's footprint grows a little bit larger, with the majority of the Cup field now running those Chevrolet Camaros. So really, why does this matter? Well, Ford has had a long, proud history in NASCAR. This is a brand that's won championships, produced legends, and been central to stock car racing identity. But as more teams choose Chevy alliances drawn by factory support, stronger technical programs, and maybe even better on-track results, it raises questions about how strong Ford's competitive position really is. Team switching manufacturers isn't unheard of, but seeing multiple outfits abandon Ford at the same time heading into a new era sends a clear signal. It begs questions like, are teams really feeling getting technical support from engines from Chevrolet partners? Is Ford's level of factory backing no longer meeting the team's needs for NASCAR as it evolves? Could we see more shifts like this in the near future if Chevy's winning streak continues? Chevrolet dominated the Manufacturers' Championship in 2025, securing its 44th Manufacturers' title and 5th year in a row. That success makes joining the Chevy camp even more attractive for the teams who want a fighting chance in the Cup Series. With RWR and others moving to Chevrolet, the balance of power in the garage could tilt even more towards Chevy and Toyota. Ford teams might need to reevaluate their support structure, technical alliance, and strategic plans. Factory investment and engineering resources could become even more crucial as the next-gen era continues to mature. Let's talk about another little crossover thing here. Big motorsports news out of Mooresville this week is Spire Motorsports announced a major expansion into sprint car racing by launching a full-time program in the Kubota High Limit Racing Series beginning in the 2026 season. Spire is already well known in NASCAR as full-time entries in Cup Series and Truck Series. Now the team, co-owned by Jeff Dickerson and Dan Tauris, is taking what it's learned on pavement back to its dirt roots, a top-flight sprint car effort. At the wheel of this new project will be Gio Chelsea, one of the sprint cars racing rising stars. Chelsea has a resume that includes multiple wins, Rookie of the Year honors from the World of Outlaws, and more than 200 top 10 finishes on the big tours. And now he'll carry the Spire banner full-time for the High Limit 66-race slate. One of the big moves behind the scenes for this project is the hiring of Eric Prutzman as crew chief. Prutzman is one of the most successful sprint car minds in the sport, having guided drivers to 6 consecutive national championships before joining Spire's team. That kind of expertise gives this new effort instant credibility. Spire's High Limit team is entering with the High Roller Club membership card, a membership that guarantees long-term partnership rights and financial stability within the series. This is similar to the NASCAR charter system, and it underscores how seriously Spire is taking this new venture. At a recent PRI show announcement, co-owner Jeff Dickerson said the timing was right to join High Limit, crediting the series leadership, its charter-style structure, and his own long involvement in both pavement and dirt racing. He said Spire isn't just trying to sprint cars for fun. They want to compete for championships and help grow the sport. This move also speaks to High Limit Racing's rapid rise as a destination for top sprint car teams. Founded by NASCAR star Kyle Larson and 5-time World of Outlaw champion Brad Sweet, High Limit has quickly developed into one of the most premier national sprint car tours, complete with charter-like system designed to create stability and shared revenue for the teams. Before the High Limit season officially begins, Chelsea and the Spire crew will hit one of dirt racing's most iconic events, the 40th annual Chili Bowl Nationals in Tulsa, competing in the Chili-sponsored Spire entry prepared by legendary midget car owners. So, for fans, this is a huge milestone. Cup Series organization fully committed to sprint car championship effort, blending pavement experience with grassroots and dirt racing. It's an exciting sign that High Limit's vision is gaining traction, and the Spire is serious about being a contender across multiple disciplines. Keep an eye on this story as Spire Sprint Car team kicks off in 2026. This could reshape how stock car organizations approach dirt racing and even more crossover excitement for the motorsports world. Let's cap this off with just a little piece from IndyCar. Changes are coming to IndyCar off the track. As the series officially confirmed, it will implement an independent officiating system beginning with 2026 for both NDT IndyCar Series and the Indy NXT by Firestone Series. Historically, IndyCar's race control, rule enforcement, and technical inspection staff reported directly to Penske Entertainment, the organization that owns the series. Beginning in 2026, that will no longer be the case. A brand new not-for-profit entity called IndyCar Officiating Incorporated has been created specifically to handle all officiating responsibilities independently from the series management. At the head of the new officiating structure will be 3-person independent officiating board, or IOB. 2 members were selected by a vote of IndyCar's chartered team owners, and the third was appointed by the Federation International de Automobile, otherwise known as the FIA, a group with deep roots in global motorsports, even though IndyCar itself is not an FIA-sanctioned series. The initial board includes Ray Evernham, NASCAR veteran championship-winning crew chief and team owner, Nair, who's a longtime automotive racing industry executive, deep technical experience there, and Ronan Morgan, a seasoned international official and former FIA steward leader. This board will soon hire a managing director of officiating, a person who will oversee race control personnel, technical inspection teams, and rule enforcement staff. That person will report only to the independent board, not to IndyCar or Penske Entertainment. The goal of this is clear: create a more transparent, impartial, and credible officiating process that exists outside the sport day-to-day management structure. IndyCar officials and team owners have said this new system should reduce the perception of conflicts of interest and strengthen confidence in officiating decisions. This change comes after years of debate within the paddock about the best way to enforce rules, handle penalties, especially in high-profile situations where impartially judgments were questioned. The new structure is meant to reassure competitors and fans alike that the decisions on the track are made fairly and consistently, with a true separation between the sport's governance and its officials. As the 2026 IndyCar season inches closer, this independent officiating system will be a major talking point heading into the streets of St. Petersburg opener on March 1st. We'll keep an eye on who gets hired as managing director of officiating and how this new model plays out on race day. With that, we're going to wrap this one up. It was a lot, hit it kind of fast, but we appreciate everyone sticking with it. If you've listened this long, we really appreciate you. If you joined us just for the NASCAR stuff, we still appreciate you on that too. But a lot has changed over this week. A lot of silly season stuff still about to happen as we roll into the end of the year. Don't forget our Formula One recap episodes coming up before the year end. And stick with us on all the socials. Like, share, subscribe. We appreciate it. If you guys have questions, leave them. Leave them in the comments. Hit us up directly. Whatever the case may be. If there's anything you want to talk about or want to hear about, also, please drop us a line. Let us know. And we'll get ramped up going into next year. We're about done with our second full year here, and we appreciate everyone for it that's joined us along. It's grown slowly, but, it's a good fan base, so we appreciate that. Until next time, though, stay safe, and thanks for tuning in.